Hi, I'm James Headley with the Living in Naples channel. Thanks so much for tuning in to our latest episode. Today I want to talk to you a bit about short-term vacation rentals, and specifically the prospect of investing in a Vrbo, an Airbnb, etc. here in the Naples and Marco Island area. As always, I appreciate you tuning in. If you like what you see and hear, please tell your friends, subscribe, and share the videos and the channel with them. Much appreciated on that front. And of course, a like or two never hurts. So thanks again for joining me. And without further ado, let me dive into a discussion about that short-term vacation rental market here in Southwest Florida. Obviously, on the surface, this looks like a great place to have a vacation property, a rental property, with the gorgeous beaches, the weather that's really unparalleled anywhere in the country, the availability of golf and tennis and dining and boating and fishing. There's just so much to recommend Southwest Florida, so it's certainly an attractive destination for those looking to get away from colder climates, in particular during our high season here in the late fall through the early to late spring. There are some concerns that you should have, and certainly some considerations that you should spend some due diligence taking under advisement before you make that leap into investing in a property here. If you hang in until the end of the video, I'm going to talk to you about really the top three things that I think you should be wary of, and certainly at least be cautious of before purchasing a short-term rental here. For now, let's look at some of the numbers really inside of the short-term vacation rental market here. Number one, really need to think about whether it's actually legal even before you jump into the numbers. You may have seen some news reports, national news reports, or local if you've been in the area, about crackdowns on short-term vacation rentals, on the party houses, etc. And here locally, we've been in the midst, for the last couple of years at least, with our Board of Commissioners, with the county leadership, talking about ways to perhaps curb those kinds of news stories and those kinds of concerns, particularly for the full-time residents, as well as those who are here seasonally, regularly, and don't rent out. They're not so thrilled with some of the challenges, let's say, that come with the transient populations coming into short-term rentals. Here we hear a lot about, and not to disparage, but do hear a lot of that we don't want this to become Miami, and that certainly plays in when we start to look at and talk about the short-term rental market. So it seems likely, and just recently, in the past week or so, at the time of this recording, that it looks like a bit of a fix, and it's a pretty moderate step in my opinion, has been taken as of the beginning of 2022. Anyone who is planning to rent out their home for less than 6 months needs to register, pay a $50 registration fee. That's 50. It's a very nominal fee, and provide a 24/7 contact number or contact information for that property. Basically, the idea being to be able to identify where these properties are, and to be able to identify who should be responsible or whom to contact if there are issues associated with those properties. So again, in my opinion, fairly moderate steps, but we'll see how this all plays out. That's the latest in the county. That applies to all of Collier County, which encompasses Naples and Marco, but not the city of Naples. Looking at beyond those limits that have been imposed by the local government, local HOAs, your individual HOAs, homeowners associations, condo associations, they can certainly set their own policies as well. And here in Naples and Marco, as you'll hear about in some more specifics, and that ranges everywhere from no limits at all, do whatever you want, to weekly rentals only, clear up through no rentals, period, or no rentals for the first couple of years of ownership, or only being able to rent the home 90 days, 120 days, or even more. So really limiting certainly taking out the Airbnb and Vrbo types of opportunities and types of channels. But In any event, that's just something to be aware of. Our rental restrictions, to look into some of the numbers and just to give you a sense, at the time of this writing, there were, as far as homes for sale today, 986 Naples listings as I record this in mid-November. Of those, 518 of them actually had rental restrictions, so that leaves 468 without any restrictions at all whatsoever. 50 of those with restrictions required a lease of 120 days or more. So really you're talking about either a full season rental or getting into annual rentals or semi-annual rentals when you start to look at those 120-day restrictions. Another 107 of those available properties required at least 90 days for a rental. 25 allowed daily rentals, but do keep in mind that the additional almost 470 that had no restrictions, essentially those are in that daily rental pool if the owners so desire, since they can do whatever they like with them. On Marco Island, certainly a number of fewer listings there, only 160 Marco listings. Of those, 82 had lease limits, and of those, only 12 required longer than 30 days. So a lot of monthly rentals at minimum on Marco. If you take those with no formal restrictions, just over half allowed daily rentals, and another 13 allowed weekly rentals. So if you want to rent a place for less than a month, in summary, your best bet probably is going to be, or your odds of finding a place are going to be higher in Marco that will allow that. But the numbers in Naples, just as a larger pool of properties, it will offset that to some extent. And you're always going to have about, if we look at the market today, 50-50 in terms of the properties available out there, whether they can be rented for 30 days or less, and in many cases 7 days or longer. So what kind of rent, if you do identify a property that does allow for the kinds of short-term rentals that you're looking for, what kind of rent might you be able to expect as an owner and as a renter? If we look across the board, you're going to think about this in a general sense, and it makes probably common sense to all of you. The closer you get to the water, the closer you get to the beach, your rents are certainly going to be a bit higher. So there's quite a bit of variance. But that said, when you look at the very high end, there's an estate in Aqualane Shores that you can rent for a month today. Panoramic views of Naples Bay with hundreds of feet of frontage there. That's only going to set you back $135,000 a month to rent that. Or there's an old Naples multi-story, just a couple of blocks from the beach on with a Fifth Avenue address, that fetches over $100,000 or right around $100,000 per month in season for its owners. More typical, certainly if you start to get into the Naples Park Shore and moorings, Naples Park Shore and the moorings areas, which are very popular single-family homes for short-term vacation rentals. When you start to see, and they're close to the Gulf, monthly rents there in season will generate about $30,000 a month for the owners. Condos in the various Pelican Bay condo complexes are going to end up getting about the high teens to low 20s per month for their owners. And getting a little closer to home here in East Naples, you might expect $10,000, give or take $2,000 to $3,000 for a single family home, again, depending upon where it's located, what complex, what the amenities look like, etc. Condos in the same area will generate $5,000 to $8,000. Again, those are monthly in-season numbers. And if we look at Marco, the range of rents that you might expect are a bit tighter, but $10,000, give or take a few thousand, is what you might be reasonably able to expect for a single-family home there, or a large-size condo closer to the beach. Again, as you get farther away, you might be looking more in the $5,000 to $6,000 range. But those are just general, to give you a general sense, and I'd be happy to talk with you about specific neighborhoods, specific condo complexes, specific properties, of course. But the bottom line is that there's an opportunity if you're looking for a pure rental investment in the area. I'll save a discussion of the monthly and seasonal rental math and calculus there for another video, but certainly for the true short-term vacation rental market, there's an opportunity here, but you really do need to make sure that you do your due diligence and look around those corners, and I'd be happy to help you to do that. I promise that if you stuck around till the end, that I would talk to you about those top 3 things that I think you should be aware of or beware of when you are shopping for a short-term rental here in Southwest Florida. First, I would say consistent with what I've been saying, assume nothing when it comes to those rental restrictions. Just because you saw a property just down the street or just around the corner, even within the same gated or primarily gated community, don't assume that those rental restrictions are the same. Just because one had weekly opportunities, it may very well be that in the next neighborhood over within the same resort development, you're looking at restrictions of no less than 120 days, or I can think of a community very nearby where you go from monthly rentals and you step across the street and you go to nothing less than an annual rental. So again, just don't assume anything, and really be clear and make sure that you're aware of what those restrictions may or may not be based upon the community that you're in. Number two, I would say to estimate the rental income that you're going to get very conservatively. This is just my general way of approaching things, and certainly the way that I approach this with all of my clients is the pie in the sky and the best case scenarios are wonderful, and that's gravy, but let's really look at this and dissect what could happen, and be sure that you're ready if there are some slower periods, or if things don't pan out exactly as you might like on the rental front. Look at rental history wherever it's available. Look as far back in rental history as is available. I mean, it's great to look at what happened over the last year or year and a half, but if you can look back 3-4 years pre-COVID days to at least be able to look at trends. I think we've changed a little bit in terms of our market here, but it is nice to be able to have some historic perspective as well, and make your decisions based upon that. In addition, checking out Airbnb, Vrbo, etc., see what's available out there, see what the properties in the area are renting for today, and again, how much availability there might be, to give yourself a sense. Local sites like Nextdoor, if you have some contacts in the area, if you know some agents in the area who are members there, that they can give you a bit of more of the local insight. Residents in some communities where they have internal rental wait lists and rental exchanges, you can also get some information that way as well. And then lastly, I would simply say and it's related a bit to the first point here, is don't extrapolate widely, especially if you aren't familiar with the area. Don't assume that because a property nearby has generated X dollars in revenue on a yearly basis, or on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, that property that you're looking at that's nearby is going to generate the same kind of income. I can't tell you the number of times that I have worked with out-of-town buyers and out-of-town prospects who didn't become buyers simply because they saw something that looked like a very attractive rental property, but it was a bit out of their price range, and they started to look on maps, or they looked at at a Zillow or a Trulia or a Realtor.com, etc., and they came across a property that was so close, seemingly on the map, to the property that they had seen before that was the ideal. Felt like, well, if I maybe I can get 90% of what I got, what they were getting for the other property in terms of rental income, but the difference can be very, very, very significant. I look at some of the properties along, and communities, resorts really, along 951 here, Collier Boulevard, and when you just start to look at what the amenity differences are, what the name brand is, what the recognition is, the people who come back year after year after year to a Fiddler's Creek and would never consider going to anywhere but a Fiddler's Creek, that brand and that value really is something that you have to keep in mind, rather than looking at a nearby community that maybe doesn't have the same level of dues and fees that you have to pay. You're probably not going to be able to get anywhere near the same kind of rental income as you can in Fiddler's, to use just one example. So be very cautious about that. I mean, obviously local knowledge goes a long way along that front, and I'd be very happy to help. Feel free to drop me a line anytime, and look forward to working with you. So thanks again. I'd love to be able to help you decide if the short-term vacation rental market is right for you here in Southwest Florida, and if it is, to help you to locate a property or properties that fit with your portfolio. So please do reach out anytime, and I'd be happy to help you out with those or any other real estate needs here. And once again, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate your time today. Please do like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you in the next episode.